Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Sam Juarez. He's the head of IT and he went from the help desk to the boardroom, leading technology strategy for more than 3,600 employees. And he's more than 15 years of experience scaling operations, driving digital transformation, and delivering measurable cost savings. So, in this episode, we will explore the communication gaps between technical professionals and business leaders, the risks of getting it wrong, and the practical steps organizations can take to ensure technology conversations lead to smarter executive decisions. Welcome to Teach the Geek interview, Sam.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. So here's my first question for you, Sam. What are the most common communication gaps you see between IT professionals or technical professionals and non-technical audiences?
First of all, not communicating at all. It's very obvious sometimes, or at least in my career, has been uh, to see that sometimes we as professionals, do not come across to the topics. We have a lot of assumptions, and assumptions is a killer in our industry. So it's definitely one thing that we need to, take considerations. Sometimes we technical people are afraid to actually voice out concerns, voice out, and also benefits as well. We assume, and assumption again is a killer. So we need to make sure that we are having our ideas across, even if we are not feeling comfortable saying them. From there, you can evolve. From there, you can start being clear. A lot of leaders or a lot of decision makers, they like to have the bottom up front, right? The so what, and then from there, either they support or they ask more questions in order to be able to support. And again, in my career, I have been very lucky to work with several decision makers or stakeholders, and it has been that common for me at the very least. I have done that observation, when it comes to communication, either not communicating at all, or not providing the right information right up front for these stakeholders.
It's funny you mentioned the whole not communicating aspect, Sam. A couple of summers ago, I was at a conference, technical conference, so it was mostly engineers in the audience. And there was a business development person giving a presentation. And afterwards, that person got a lot of technical questions that he couldn't answer because he's a business development person. But luckily, there were two engineers from his company who were in the audience, and they answered the questions from their seats. The room was small enough that we could hear them because obviously they weren't at the front of the room giving the presentation. And I just remember thinking at the time, why didn't one of them give the presentation? Because it was engineers in the audience, so it's more than likely they're going to have technical questions, and yet here you have this business development person having to field these questions as opposed to the person who likely obviously had all the answers.
And we as leaders, in technology, right? We as leaders do not to be afraid, or I would say in anything, we do not have to be afraid to empower our teams to actually do it, because what you say, it's very interesting about maybe not having the right people deliver the right message, right? On the other hand, we have in our teams very capable individuals that they are masters of their craft, and that most likely they would be able to be empowered and would be able to be encouraged and also aimed to present what they have to do, what they have to showcase, what are the benefits or the things that actually we need to prevent our organizations to do. So we should not be afraid of empowering others for success, and in this case, for an overall success of the company, success of themselves, and indirectly at the end of the day, success for us, the leaders of operations.
Yeah. So, what do you think are I guess, what does poor communication, or at least how does poor communication affect decision making at the executive level?
It costs money. Neil, we're in the business of creating money for our companies directly or indirectly. And at the end of the day, we need to be able to transmit the message that is pertaining to the people that actually enables companies to spend money to make more money. So if we are not clearly communicating our ideas, if we don't have an idea of the things that need to be done, and also if we are not asking the right questions to the business, then we are not able to actually procure the things that need to be done. And at the end of the day, we are preventing or making less efficient the money making machine that our organization, at the end of the day, plain and simple is.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. When I worked as an engineer, Sam, every other week I got paid, but I never thought about where that money came from. I was only just concerned that it was in the bank account when it was supposed to be there. And looking back on it now, I just think to myself, well, I was good at the job I was doing, working as an engineer, but I never made that link between the work that I was doing and money coming into the organization. And I think a lot of us technical people probably were like me in that sense, that it was just, let me just do my job, the job that they hired me for, but anything outside of that, I don't really have to think about it.
Yeah, and it's very crucial for us leaders to actually transmit that message to our teams, make them part of the operation because at the end of the day, we all have our different, motivations, if that's the way of saying. But definitely when you take that extra time to understand the biggest example that I give away, and hopefully my team is watching this so they will resound with it. The biggest example is that how changing a mouse is going to affect a decision that can bring $2 million to the front door of our company. And I do that parallelism, or I do that, that connection. A mouse that is not working in a presentation for other stakeholders that actually are interested in the technologies that our company has. And if we actually don't make this meeting on time, we will not be able to present how this is going to change these other companies' revenue. And maybe we're going to lose this contract that happens to be $2 million, of revenue on a yearly basis for the operation that we have. So again, communication is one of the keys for any operation, right? But in technology, it's a key, to not only have money coming into the front of the company, but also having the involvement and the passion and the inspiration or motivation, or at least the clear objectives, mission, and vision for the team that we work with in order to achieve the goals that we need.
Yeah. What technical risks or what risk can happen when technical risks are not clearly understood by executives?
Lack of efficiency, lack of direction, and definitely wasting time. And again, it sounds like I'm focusing a lot of money, but at the end of the day, most organizations, that's what they are here for, creating money, creating wealth, and at the end of the day, that mindset of keeping the communication open, or making sure that we are taking the right decisions, the right risks, that they are clearly understood. It's not about, I mean, taking risk. You can take risk. We take risks every day because we actually have to take decisions every day, sure. But on the other hand, the more information that we have, the more communication that we do, the more people is looking at the problem, and the faster that we can resolve and make sure that we are comfortable with decisions that we're taking, are reducing the risks, are increasing efficiencies, and also, are, well, generating revenue.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, Sam. I mean, back when I worked as an engineer, as I said, these were a lot of issues that I never really thought about it at all. It was just about doing the job and doing it to the best of my ability and hoping somebody noticed and also thinking that whatever I said, even if I were to say anything, was understood already because I understood it. But I never thought that, well, I went to school to understand these things. I've had this role for quite some time, and that's why I understand what I understand now. The people that I'm speaking to now, well, they didn't go to school for this. They didn't have that technical role. So why would I assume that what I know, they will inherently know? More of us need to think about how can we put this in a way that these people who don't have our background can understand. And I think a lot of us, we forget to even try to do that.
Yeah, and assumption is a killer of many things in life, of course. But in our industry, it's a killer of efficiency, it's a killer of progress, and it's a killer of revenue. And again, I'm going to the same place, and I'm repeating myself, but also when we get to leadership, fortunately or unfortunately, we are in the business of reiterating, making sure that everybody understands what is going on, and that everybody understands where they have to be, and what is their, they are a puzzle in this big, in this big organization, in order to get success. And at the end of the day, that's why we need to be very clear on communication. We also have to be, accountability is not a benefit or not an added thing, but the more we grow into our organizations, the more we grow into leadership. Accountability is something that needs to be ingrained and needs to be part and needs to be embraced as well. So that's why I'm not fan of assumptions at all. And on the other hand, that has led for a lot of success, in the organizations that I have been part of.
Absolutely. When presenting complex technical topics to business leaders, how do you decide what level of detail is necessary for them to make a sound decision without overwhelming them?
Well, early in my career, and let me take that back. Early in my career as a leader, I understood that other leaders or stage or business decision makers or stakeholders, they don't have the time, and they don't have the time for two reasons: either they don't want to allocate the time, or they really don't have the time. So one of the things that has worked and is working very well, and then it is recalling to a few minutes ago, is giving the details up front. And from there you start building out, right? Depending on the time, depending on their interest, depending on the trust that they have built or we have built between each other, between the business, decision makers and us leaders in technology, we are able to feed more information. And if they need more information, they will make the time for it. They will ask the right questions, and also they will understand what are we trying to do. So I would say that if we give the answers up front, and then we are ready to develop, the reasoning, the what, the so what, and the what now, the what ifs, the understanding the risks, understanding the benefits, understanding how are we going to get there, you know, we can present that idea, we can present those solutions that they need. So again, bringing everything up front, but then being ready to answer the questions and having good reasoning of why are we recommending what we're recommending.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. How do you figure out whether the executives have understood the technical information that you've conveyed to them?
Well, one of the things that I have requested my organizations that I have been part of has been understanding the business that they are at. And if I understand the business, I understand the pace, I understand the needs, I understand the objectives and where they need to go. And at the end of the day, I understand also my audience. It's creating a trust relationship. I'm not saying that we're going to go golfing, every so often, that we're going to take lunches every day, but I'm saying, reading the rooms, reading the way they operate, understanding where they are coming from. And in that way, I'm able to, understand how can that be approached. At the end of the day, we as leaders, or the individuals in technology that want to develop as leaders, we need to have that human factor, right? We need to learn to understand audiences. Who do I have to speak fast and give them the upfront? Or on the other hand, many other leaders and business stakeholders, they like and decide to have a conversation and a chat and a coffee, and then let's have lunch. And then 2 hours later, you end up, explaining what needs to happen. And maybe sometimes they don't need to happen, but out of accountability, out of safety net, you also, transmit that information as well. But at the end of the day, it's that factor of humanity that we need to develop as leaders as well.
Yeah, I really like your point about reading the room, Sam. I think a lot of us technical people, because we're uncomfortable speaking in front of others, we don't look at people. And I think if we looked at people, you can see a whole lot of nonverbal communication when you're giving a presentation. Are they looking back at you? Do they have this quizzical look on their face? Are they even paying attention? Are they on their phone? Are they staring off into space? Like all that type of those cues that we miss because we're so worried about giving the presentation and reading slides. And when you read slides, you can't read people because you're not even looking at them.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we as professionals, like you mentioned before a couple of minutes ago, we are the ones that went to school for this, or we are the ones that have been leading projects or have been, understanding how a company needs to move on regards of technology. And most of times, if we build the right relationships and we are able to read the room, read the people, and understand what our company needs and understand what our companies, do, a lot of times it's just a procedural thing to actually showcase the business plans about moving forward with certain technologies, because you already have created this trust. So it's not that the business leaders are not going to care about what we need to do, but also there needs to be a lot of work done by ourselves in order to create this trust and actually change the relationship, instead of actually trying to convince and being an internal salesman for technologies that you believe that they're going to happen. It's a lot of more work that happens when you are not presenting, in a way.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. When business leaders push for speed or cost efficiency, how do you clearly communicate the technical consequences of these choices so they can make better choices themselves?
So there are two things that we need to observe, and first of all, it's the benefits. We all love to talk about benefits and how great this is going to make the position the company, and how incredible this is going to put us in there. But also, we need to make sure that we help them understand the risks, help them understand the things that we are not going to achieve, or the issues that we are going to encounter. And we need to play that game at the same time. But also something that has worked for me, and maybe and the other that hasn't worked for me at times, we don't have to be doom and gloom into saying that if we don't do this, things are going to happen. We need to be able to ensure that we are understanding also, again, the capabilities of the company, the orientation, but at the same time that we clearly are able to communicate. We're clearly able to showcase the benefits and also the risks that are going to be embarking if we take a decision that they are more leaning into it. Meaning that if they want to go with the cheaper, or they want to go with the scarce, resource, or they are thinking that maybe technology is not worth it, and we have to do less with more. Sure, we have to aim to be smart and efficient about the economy, and we need to be smart and efficient about the budget and the resource that we have. But on the other hand, we have the responsibility to showcase with the benefits and the risks how something can be of greater potential for a company, or how something is going to be preventing these fires. You know that many companies, the standard procedure is actually to be turning off fires when it comes to technology. But maybe this is my take, right? Or maybe this has been, the story of my career. I I prefer to actually position the companies into, preventing these fires altogether, right? I mean, sure, we need to be changing that up in many companies, but then it takes on us the responsible leaders in technology in order, to help change that mindset. But it's bestowed upon us, the leaders in technology, to actually help the business stakeholders to understand this, and why sometimes it is worth it to actually, do that investment, or invest a little more, or go with the right solution instead to the cheap solution, and so on.
Absolutely. I'm curious about this, Sam. This whole as a technical person communicating effectively with non-technical audiences, is this something you've always been good at? And if not, what did you do to get better at
Ha,
it?
ha, no. No, and the thing is, I am very blessed that my first job ever, well, no, my first job, really, technically, and I jokingly tell my dad that he believed in child labor, but no, it's not. That's absolutely a joke. My dad actually had put his side business in El Salvador of computers. I'm very proud that he did a career. I'm doing a similar career that he did, because he started as a technician. He ended up being a vice president in technology in a well-renowned, organization in El Salvador. And then in the middle of that, he decided to, give a dig into being an entrepreneur. So, at the end of the day, I learned my craft. I learned how to fix computers, how to build them computers and all together. And my story starts there. But then my first professional opportunity was actually customer service. And when it comes to customer service, depending on the field that you are, but most of times, you have to cater to these audiences in order for them to purchase something from you, or make sure that product, that you're happy with that product. You're an ambassador of that label. I think that gave me the takeaways, to actually start dealing with people, and then dealing with executives, and then dealing with business stakeholders, right? At the end of the day, is not so much, the evolution actually is not so much into making them happy, it's actually making them money through making them happy. And how do you make someone happy, cozy, comfortable? Helping them understand why things happen or what things are going to happen. We play the prediction game at the same time. So yeah, I would say that having that background in customer service for people that is starting, if they have the opportunity to choose, if I would have to do it all over again, I would take the same path.
Nice. I'm curious, Sam, on your thoughts on communicating with mixed audiences. So a lot of what we've been talking about so far has been technical people communicating with business leaders. But what if you have to communicate with an audience that has business and tech leaders in it? How do you go about doing that?
Well, you have to know your craft, right? And that's where I was going for to empower your teams. It is very important to recognize what are your strengths and weaknesses. So for example, if I go and talk about development of applications or business applications or ERP, I understand the ins and outs. I understand how that benefit a company. I understand how that connects with infrastructure, and the IT operations. But I'm certainly not capable of doing that. So we have to be humble enough to understand what can we do, what we cannot do, but also empower our teams that actually they can do it. We have to be able to recognize the talent of our teams. We have to be able to recognize the people that really wants to actually do this step up into doing technical presentations for technical and non-technical people. And at the same time, when it comes to our craft, we need to be able to understand the people that we're going to present, meaning we're going to throw tidbits here and there about technical things, but without isolating the other side of the other side of the audience that you have, right? Meaning that depending on the topic that you have, you need to be able to cater to both, right? You need to be able to make it easy for the audience and curious for the audience to follow up on your topic, but at the same time, not boring enough to these technical audiences so they can get a benefit, or at the very least, they can have some thoughts about what you're presenting and, be curious about it or be able to, challenge because, as in everything, we should be able and ready and prepared to have people that think differently. Valid points, but they think differently at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's absolutely true. And I think also when it comes to speaking to mixed audiences, certainly knowing your audience is important. Knowing the probably not probably knowing the makeup. If it's mostly business as opposed to technical, maybe you skew more that way and vice versa.
Correct.
But then also, but in the event that perhaps it's 50-50, then I think what can be helpful is priming whatever you're going to say before you say it so that the each group knows that this is something that they can something they can understand or are likely going to be interested in. So, for instance, if you're going to say something more technical, you could say, well, to get into something more, well, to be more technical, and then say what you're going to say. So now the technical people know, okay, this is something that we should pay attention to, and then say maybe for the business people, you could say something like in business terms. Well, okay, now you're going to talk about business stuff. Well, now my ears can perk up, and I think what that does is it eliminates the likelihood of them tuning out to various parts of the presentation because they don't think it applies to them.
That's right. And also, of course, preparation, right? I know at the palm of my hand, people that actually, can come up to the stage and actually talk about a topic that maybe they didn't know 5 minutes ago, or things of the nature, or maybe that they haven't prepared a presentation and they have to take it out of nowhere. Preparation it's a key component, and respecting your audience as well, getting to know the audience, like they also giving them hints about things that are going to happen that maybe some people in the audience may not be ready, and it's not like it's a stand-up comedy that the presenter, or in this case the comedian, is going to actually has a profile and a way of saying things and a kind of humor. When it comes to the professional setting, you need to be very, very careful, very, very intentional about the messaging that you're having, and that comes with having the right and proper preparation and the respect to the audience as well.
Yeah. What can an organization do to help their technical people become more effective communicators?
You mean what can an organization do you mean?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry. Well, definitely giving them the opportunity and the tools to develop. In the sense of, well, I have been absolutely lucky and grateful. Very fortunate to actually be part of organizations that believe in self-development and also in development of the work of the job, and they are very high, or they have been very high into us pursuing the coursework that we need. But on the other hand, it's like in parenting, right? When kids they want to do something, it's half us procuring the opportunity, for them to do the thing, but actually having the willingness. And it's the same with our teams, right? I can fight out, with the organization to actually get budget for courses and exams and even paying university, whatever. But then it has to be also in the professional, the willingness and the recognition of saying, okay, I really want to do this, and this is going to, set me for success in the organization. And let's be real, this is also going to be a next step for me to be better, whether if it's in the organization or in another organization. So at the end of the day, organizations, they need to make sure that they are meeting that criteria of giving the opportunity to their employees for them to develop in their field or looking at the future. But at the same time, we as professionals, and I'm not saying only leaders, I'm saying professionals in technology in this case, we need to be conscious about the opportunities that we are given, or be able to seek those opportunities. But the company is not going to make the course for me and I will be signing it. I will be the one that I'm going to be facing the fire. I have to face the fire in order to actually get that recognition, get those achievements, those courses, those certifications.
Yeah, I fully know. And when I think about it, Sam, when I tell technical people about the usefulness of becoming more effective communicators, I'm not saying it from the point of learn to love it. You don't have to love it. You have to learn to love the benefits of it. Because oftentimes it's the people who are the communicators who get the opportunities. And there's been so many instances, including in my own case, where I've been disgruntled and I've seen other people disgruntled because they saw somebody else get what they thought they deserved, but that person was just better at communicating why they should have that opportunity, and then they did it amongst the people who made decisions. And a lot of times I think the people who don't get those opportunities, they think that their technical work will speak for itself. But I mean, all the other people who are doing technical work, they're likely doing it at an acceptable level as well. You think that the decision makers have the time to notice all of them? And I mean, and if not, then why are you so special that you're supposed to be noticed as opposed to everybody else? And I think a lot of us we don't really think about that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the work that we do as professionals is going to speak by itself. But when it comes to the professional setting, we all have a work to do. That's why also I say that assumption is a killer of many things. And also when we become experts at something, when we become leaders at something, when we become subject matter experts, coaches, inherent the speaking publicly, the communicating, the transmitting this information, that make it visible. And I'm not saying for their own gain, rather for the nature of their work that they're doing, it becomes a standard thing. It comes with the whole package. Sure, it comes with the great paycheck and most of times, and also the recognition, and also the admiration even for some peers. But at the same time also comes with all these responsibilities that you need to fulfill as a leader of thought, as a leader of position, as a subject matter expert. It's very important for us to recognize that early, and make ourselves comfortable. Now, granted, I am an introvert person, and people that my friends and my acquaintances and the people that I work with, they know about this. But on the other hand, when I need to actually communicate, we need to do it effectively, right? We need to do it to the right audiences. We need to do it with the right intention. We need to do it with the right, what's the word I'm thinking in Spanish right now? We need to be delicate at times because, the information that we have maybe may not be suited for certain audiences, or maybe they are confidential. But, it comes with the same package. It's a big portion to be an expert in what you do, but then the other portion is how to share it, right? And how to share it effectively.
Absolutely. This has been a great conversation, Sam. Thank you for being a guest. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I am not very much into social media. I just happen to have LinkedIn because of obvious reasons. So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, and that's it. That's about it.
Yeah, hey, I'm mostly on LinkedIn too, so we're in the same boat there. So, well, everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Sam.